everybody, welcome back. Bob Finelli, exercise physiologist, kinesiologist, rehab therapist. So today, in going deeper, we're going to look at the idea of flexibility, and we're going to couple that with agility. So generally when we talk about flexibility, it's pretty much kind of static stretches. I can bend down and touch my toes, etc. I can lie on my back and put my foot over my head. It's all fine. But then we get up and we're actually moving and cutting and rotating. We have multiple things driving, a foot, a hand, a head. So I think what we want to look at is we really want to start to train for agility, which is flexibility in motion. And what do we know about agility? Really, what do we know about flexibility? Well, a couple things. Number one, it's three-dimensional. I have to move in 3 dimensions when I'm upright and moving. If I'm stretching on the floor, I'm not. And our question is, what are you training for? The floor or being upright and moving? Number 2, it is task specific and context dependent. So if I'm on the floor and I just have my foot above my head and I'm stretching my hamstring, chances are my hamstring's saying, not really sure what you're doing. You're telling me my foot's not important to what I do. You're telling me my hip's not important to what I do. You're telling me my trunk's not important to what I do. But the second you get up and move, they're all moving with me. So it's task specific and context dependent, right? So if we're up and foot is moving, hip is moving, pelvis is moving, and that's how the body actually creates flexibility and agility, which is flexibility in motion, we're gonna wanna train for that. So let's talk about the hip. So traditionally, to stretch the hip, we might lie on the ground and just rotate one leg over the other and hold that. That's okay, but what does the hip actually do to create flexibility? Well, when we talk about the hip, we're talking about the femur and the pelvis. It moves front to back, side to side, and in rotation. That's how the body moves and all those muscles stretch. So if we want to stretch the hip, how about if we do it this way? How about to stretch my right hip, I step my left foot forward. You see how I just stretched the front? Then I go back. Then I step to the left. Then I cross over to the right. And then I rotate to the left. And then I hook around to the right. Well, I just took that hip and said, I'm going to move you this way, that way, that way, that way, that way, and that way. And the hip would say, that's fantastic. That's actually what I do. That's how I stretch. Oh, and by the way, the hip would say, thank you for having my foot be a part of it. Thank you for having my pelvis be a part of it. Thank you for having my knee be a part of it. Oh, and by the way, if you want to add my hands, just move them with me. Because sometimes when you're moving, I drive my hands and maybe my foot isn't. I go to plant and hit my tennis ball, and I have to load through me. So thank you so much, the hip would say, for understanding that flexibility for me is a body upright, where I have to deal with gravity in the ground, where I have to decelerate my own mass momentum. Flexibility is really agility for me. It's flexibility in motion. To get the body to work authentically, we have to train it authentically.